I collapsed onto the sagging mattress in my narrow rented room, the rusty springs groaning beneath me like an old man's bones. At 38, I felt closer to 70. Every muscle in my body pulsed, with the dull ache that comes from 18 hours of relentless labor. Dust clung to my skin, my clothes, my eyelashes, like the world refused to let go of me even after I had left the job site. This room, this suffocating box, with its cracked walls and flickering light bulb. It was the only space I could afford in this city. A single bed, a rickety table, and one window that opened to a view of another wall. Sometimes I wondered if the room was shrinking around me. Or maybe I was shrinking, becoming smaller under the weight of everything I had chosen. Or everything that had chosen me. My name is Elias Harper, and survival has been my only constant truth. I reached for the envelope lying on the table, my daughter's school fee reminder. The red ink on the notice felt like a wound, something that refused to heal. I ran a thumb over her name printed on the paper, Leah Harper. 6 years old. Sharp, bright, innocent. Everything I was not. Everything I wanted to protect from becoming like me. I closed my eyes and leaned back, letting the exhaustion flood my body. But sleep wouldn't come. It rarely did. My mind kept drifting back to the one thing I couldn't outrun, the memory that lived with me like a shadow. 5 years ago, I promised my wife on her hospital bed that I would take care of our daughter no matter what. Whatever you do, she whispered through trembling breaths, don't let life harden you. But life did not make such promises in return. When she died, a part of me was buried with her. And the part that remained was no longer a man. It was a machine wired to work, struggle, sacrifice. Day after day. Brick after brick. Sweat after sweat. I opened my crusted eyes again, and stared at the little sticker pasted on the wall above my bed, a faded rainbow drawn by Leah. It was crooked and peeling from the edges, but it was the brightest thing in this entire room. Papa, rainbows mean hope, she had said. Hope. A word I swallowed and never felt. My phone buzzed beside me. I reached for it with a heavy hand. A voice message from Leah. I forced myself upright, my bones protesting, and played it. Papa, teacher said to bring parents tomorrow for the project day. Everyone's coming. You also come, okay? A tiny pause. I miss you. The message ended, leaving behind a silence so loud it pressed against my chest. Project day. The last time she asked me to come to school, I couldn't. I was loading cement bags at the warehouse. 30 bags an hour. No break. No excuses. And by the time I got home, she was asleep with her handmade card still clutched in her small fingers. A card that said you are my hero. A hero. The word mocked me. I wanted to go tomorrow. God knows I did. But overtime had already been announced, and missing a shift meant losing a full day's pay. A day's pay meant milk for Leah. Books. Shoes. Rent. Everything balanced on calculations so fragile that one emotional step could shatter the whole equation. Guilt sat beside me like an unwanted companion. I dragged myself to my feet and walked to the tiny sink in the corner of the room. The cold water bit into my skin as I splashed it onto my face. I looked into the cracked mirror, dark circles, cracked lips, a beard that needed trimming, eyes that didn't look alive anymore. Is this what sacrifice looked like? Or was I simply breaking myself in the name of responsibility? I didn't know. Suddenly, thunder rumbled outside, shaking the thin walls. Rain began hammering the metal roof, the sound echoing through the room like chaos. I sat on the edge of the bed again, listening. Weather like this only made tomorrow worse. The project site would flood. Work would double. If I didn't show up, someone else would take my place. Men like me weren't valued, we were replaceable, interchangeable, Forgettable. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since morning. I opened the small metal box under the bed, just 2 slices of dry bread and an old packet of tea. I could finish it, or save it for tomorrow. Without thinking too hard, I wrapped the bread back again. Leah loved bread with honey. I'd bring her some this weekend. I stared again at her rainbow sticker. For a moment, I imagined myself waking up early, getting dressed, and walking into her school. The way her face would light up. The way she would run to me. Maybe she would hold my hand and show me her drawings, proudly telling her friends, "This is my papa." A warmth spread in my chest at the thought. But it was quickly extinguished by the harsh slap of reality. Wanting wasn't enough. Not in my world. My phone buzzed again. A message from my supervisor: "Don't be late tomorrow. Big order. Need all men on site." My shoulders sank. I typed a slow reply: "I'll be there." 2 seconds later, he reacted with a thumbs up, cold, mechanical, transactional. I lay down again, staring at the roof, letting the rain fill the silence. My thoughts drifted to memories of better days, when I used to fix things around the house, when my wife laughed at my clumsy attempts at cooking, when Leah slept on my chest, small and warm, when life felt possible. Then the accident happened. The hospital bills came like a storm. And I watched her slip away, inch by inch, breath by breath. That was the day I became a ghost inside my own skin. I turned to my side, curled slightly, and whispered into the dark, "I'm trying. I'm really trying." Maybe one day, Leah would understand. Maybe one day she would forgive me for the birthdays I missed, the school events I couldn't attend, the nights I came home too tired to speak. Or maybe she wouldn't. But I had made a promise. And promises hold their own weight. Sometimes heavier than the man carrying them. As the night deepened, the rain softened, and my body finally began surrendering to sleep. But just before my eyes closed, I felt something shift inside me, not hope, not clarity, but a question. How long could a man keep giving before he had nothing left to give? I didn't know the answer yet. But I felt the world tightening around me, a storm building on the horizon, and I knew my test had only begun. The morning came too quickly. My alarm buzzed at 4:45 a.m., the shrill beeping slicing through the darkness of my room. My eyelids felt heavy, swollen from the little sleep I'd managed. I forced myself to sit up, every bone protesting, every muscle stiff from the previous day's labor. For a few seconds, I simply sat there, staring at the faint light creeping in through the window cracks. Today was project day at Leah's school, and today, I wasn't going. The thought alone felt like a punch to the chest. I rubbed my hands over my face, trying to shake the fog from my mind. Work wasn't optional. Not for men like me. Responsibility wasn't something you choose. It was something that pressed itself onto your back whether you were ready or not. I got dressed in my worn-out work clothes, the one stained with cement, dust, and yesterday's sweat. As I tied my boots, I paused. These same boots had carried me through 5 years of burden, but never once through the hallway of my daughter's school on a day that mattered to her. A part of me whispered, "Go to her." Just once. Another part shot back, "And what then? Who pays the bills? Who buys the books? Who keeps the lights on?" I left the room with the second voice winning, like it always did. The sky was still dark when I reached the construction site. Floodlights stretched long shadows across muddy ground. Rainwater pooled everywhere, turning earth into thick sludge. The air smelled of wet concrete, rust, and exhaustion. Dozens of men were already there, standing in line, waiting for instructions. No one complained. No one asked questions. We were all there because we had no choice. My supervisor, Martin, walked past us holding a clipboard, Morning, boys, he said, not looking up. Long day ahead. Don't slack. I swallowed my irritation and followed the rest. The work was brutal today, lifting soaked wooden beams, unloading bags twice as heavy because the rainwater had seeped in, climbing scaffolds slick with mud. Every step felt like it could send me crashing down. Around noon, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I froze. I knew who it was even before opening it. During the lunch break, I pulled out the phone with trembling fingers. The message was a picture, Leah, standing in front of her project, a cardboard model of a rainbow and a little house. She was smiling, trying so hard to look happy, but her eyes were searching for someone who wasn't there. My throat tightened. I felt the world blur for a moment. I zoomed in on her face, saw the tiny forced smile, saw the emptiness in her hands, where she had probably hoped mine would be. Before I could even breathe, another message arrived, this time from her teacher. Leah said you're working. She wanted to show you her project. You raised a very strong girl, Mr. Harper. Strong, yes, because she had no other choice. A burn lit behind my eyes. I put the phone away and looked up at the sky. It had cleared now, sunlight cutting through the clouds with a cruel brightness. I swallowed hard and got back to work, but something inside me had cracked, quietly, painfully. Hours passed. My arms throbbed. My shirt clung to my skin. My breath felt shallow. A sharp pain shot through my lower back every time I bent down. I ignored it at first. Men like me always did. Pain was normal. Pain meant nothing, until suddenly, it meant everything. I was lifting a load of steel rods with another worker. My grip slipped. The weight shifted wrong. A blinding stab tore through my back. My legs buckled. The world tilted. I crashed onto the wet ground, the steel rolling away with a loud clatter. Everything went silent. Someone shouted my name. Someone grabbed my arm. But all I could hear was the echo of Leah's tiny voice from her message the night before. Papa, you also come, okay? The pain dragged me back to the present. I could hardly breathe. Martin rushed over. You all right, Harper? I shook my head, struggling to sit back. Something's wrong, he sighed, the kind of sigh that held no sympathy, only inconvenience. Take a few minutes. If you can't lift again, I'll have to send you home. Send me home. No pay. No money for rent. No money for food. No school fees. I tried to stand. My legs trembled violently. Sweat dripped down my forehead. I managed to straighten for a second before collapsing again. The pain was unbearable, radiating up and down my spine like fire. Useless if you can't stand, Martin muttered, waving at another worker. Take him to the bench. 2 men helped me hobble to a wooden bench at the edge of the site. I sat there, shaking, drenched in sweat, mud, and shame. I thought of Leah's project, of her waiting, searching the crowd, hoping. I thought of my wife, her last words, her soft voice saying, don't let life harden you. I thought of myself, who I had become, what I had allowed life to turn me into. A man who gave everything, but showed up for nothing. My breath shuddered. A cold realization settled into me like a stone sinking into deep water. This wasn't sacrifice anymore. This was self-destruction, and for the first time in 5 years, I asked myself something I had been too afraid to ask. What good was I to my daughter if I broke myself until there was nothing left? As the workers continued around me, their shadows moving like ghosts, I felt a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Not peace. Not relief, but direction. When my shift ended, I didn't go home. I took the bus straight to Leah's school, even though the event was long over. I found her sitting on the steps outside the classroom, her backpack beside her, swinging her feet slowly. When she saw me, her eyes widened, not with disappointment, not with anger, but with hope flickering back to life. "Papa," she whispered, standing. I walked toward her with slow, painful steps. My back screamed with every movement, but I didn't care. When I reached her, I knelt, barely, painfully, and opened my arms. She ran into them, the warmth of her small body against mine, her tiny arms around my neck. It broke something in me and healed something else at the same time. "I'm sorry," I whispered in her hair. "I'm so sorry." She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Forgiveness isn't always spoken, it's felt. As I held her, I made a vow, not a desperate promise to work harder, not a vow to break myself more, but a vow to live, to be present, to be more than a provider. To be a father. To choose her, not just survival. And for the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me, not hope, not yet, but the beginning of it.